My name is Master Sean Pearson, and this is the Video Dojang. In this episode of Video Dojang, I'm going to cover a bunch of different ways of stretching our shoulders and our wrists using a stick. This is one of my collie sticks. It's about the length of my armpit to the tip of my finger, but a longer stick or a shorter stick would work fine. This is the ideal length for these stretches, however. This is actually made out of a piece of kamagong, which is a wood from the Philippines. It's very strong and there's no chance of this breaking whatsoever. A piece of rattan would work just fine. Hardwood doweling would work fine as well, but you want to be careful that you don't use something that's going to break on you. The first one that we're going to do, we start with both hands facing down, grabbing the ends of the stick. I'm going to bring one hand down toward the ground and then bring it straight up my center line as if I'm going to touch the tip of my chin. I push out on my elbow and bring the stick down at the same time so that my upper arm and the stick are perpendicular to the ground. The upper arm and lower arm are at a right angle to each other, and the upper arm and my body are at a right angle to each other. I'm then going to pull on the lower end of the stick to the left in this case, because this is my right arm, which will then rotate my arm and stretch my shoulder. Then I uncircle or uncoil back to the starting position. Do the same thing on the other side. Drop my left hand down, bring it up to center line, bring the stick and elbow together perpendicular to the floor, and pull on the bottom of the stick, rotating my arm. Now once you have this technique down, you can actually rotate back and forth at a fairly rapid pace. This helps learn, as my instructor would say, the language of the stick, being able to manipulate the stick, control the stick. And once you've gotten that down, you can actually rotate your body as you're doing this, not as a stretch to the shoulder, but as a stretch to the back. You can rotate the shoulder if you wanted to when you're doing it, or you can just simply work on rotating the stick back and forth to loosen up your back. Okay, so that was for our shoulders. Now to do our wrists, we're simply going to take one hand and put it palm up instead of palm down. So one's down, one's up. The one that's up is the one that we're going to be stretching. I'm going to lift this up towards my face as if I'm doing a curl. Bring my hand down my center line, bending my wrist, putting the stick right on the bend of my wrist, and putting the end of the stick in my armpit so that the hand is right on the center line. This will stretch out my wrist. My fingers get a little loose. All I have to do is twist the stick, and that will actually tighten my fingers up. And I just stay here until I'm done with the stretch. At this point, I'm going to bring my arm straight up towards the ceiling, maintaining control of the other end of the stick. Once it's up, I roll my arm around the stick, bringing the stick down again, maintaining it on my center line. And if my fingers once again get loose, as I rotate it, it will actually tighten them up. In this case, the end of the stick is ending a little bit past my belt. Usually right on the belt is where you want the end of the stick going, assuming this is arm's length. At this point, I'm going to take the end of the stick, put it around behind my back, and grab it with the hollow of my other elbow. This is where you would run into problems if you had a shorter stick. And now I'm going to uncoil the whole thing, and you can really feel the stretch at that point coming out. Now I'm going to switch my hands, do the same thing on the other side. Hand comes up, down my center line, bend the wrist, stick the stick in my armpit so that my hand is on my center line. This should be a right angle, my wrist should be, and my elbow should be slightly bent. I can rotate the stick if I have to. Put it straight up toward the ceiling, wrap my arm around it, again twisting the stick as I drop it. Bringing the stick around behind my back, grabbing it with my right arm this time, and then uncoiling. Good. This time I'm going to switch back to the same position that I was before with my right hand up. This time, instead of coming up, I'm going to drop the stick down, bringing my hand right up along my body, right next to my other arm, so that the stick is really close to my wrist. Bringing this out on my center line again. This time, this end of the stick is going right to my hip, where my belt is, and back. And the same thing on the other side, not up this time, but down, up close to my body. Bring the stick up to my belt. Hand should be on the center line. And back. And the last one is going to stretch both our shoulders and our wrists. So the way this works is I'm going to grab the center of the stick. I'm going to turn one of my hands palm out and actually grab the stick tightly with my fingers and thumb. Then I'm going to take the other hand and do exactly the same thing, grabbing it tightly. When you first grab it, your elbows are going to have to be up like this, otherwise it's going to be pretty much impossible to grab it. Now, once I have it and I'm holding on tightly, I'm going to push straight down till my arms straighten out, and then bring it up above my head. And then back down and bend at the elbows, and then I can let go. So that's just a couple ways of stretching our wrists and our shoulders with using a stick. In a future episode, we'll use a staff, a bow staff, or a little bit longer staff to aid in some stretching with the legs and primarily with rotating the upper part of our body. Until then, see you next time on the Video Dojang.